This is a paper tape here that's got sprocket holes down the center, and then there are 12 what are called channels. So by convention, channel 1 is punched in a position that would bring you back up to the top of the page. So when you get done with your printing halfway down, you'd say skip to channel 1, and it would start the thing skipping at 33 inches a second, which is much faster than it would normally print. And then when the reader detects the channel 1 is hit, it stops, and then you can start printing the next page. So a lot of tricks to make it go even faster than the rated 600 lines a minute. The other thing that was really loved about the 1403 printer is
we love today about the 1403.
Still, right? If you notice, this is a chain printer, and the chain goes horizontally. Maybe some of the other printers that you've seen elsewhere in Revolution, they either have type bars that kind of go up and down, or else they might have a drum, again, that basically is going up and down. The advantage of doing it this way is, you know, these are mechanical systems, and they're not totally perfect, right? So you're going to get a little, it might fire just slightly the wrong time. If you have something going up and down, you're going to get a slightly wavy line. With this one going this way, yeah, it might be spaced a little bit off forward and backward, but it's going to be a totally straight line. Turns out the human eye is much more sensitive to that. It would much rather see a totally straight line than one that might be a little wavy. So this was truly a legendary printing, and people absolutely love it.
And they will continue to love it for the next 15 or 20 years. This turns out that I predict that this will be one of IBM's best devices ever. As we mentioned, 600 lines a minute, 132 print positions, the interchangeable print cartridge, so I can have some special character sets for chemical companies and so on, and 48 characters on the screen. That's the 1402. Let's talk a little bit about the 1402. 1402, you've seen us reading cards. It reads cards at 800 cards a minute. It can punch at 250 cards a minute. It can separate those into these 5 pockets, so I could even merge from the reading and the punch side if I need to. And finally, I have that 3,000 card file feed. If we're going to print at, or if we're going to punch, let's try that again. If we're going to read cards at 800 a minute, you don't want to have to keep stopping the machine to put in new cards. So that file feed was embedded so it will continuously feed the operator and keep this flow. So that's the 1402. Now let's talk just a little bit about programming. Today, what you control your unit record equipment, your punch card equipment, with control panels, and you wire those. So these panels are removable. If you want to run the first job, you take one off, put this one in, run the job, take it out, put in another one. But creating this panel took a lot of work on somebody's part to make it do exactly what you want it to do. We are going to replace all that with what we call programming, and the idea of a stored program that you will read a program in, and it will stay in memory and operate from memory. As I mentioned, it's a variable word length and a decimal arithmetic machine, which helps make programming simple. And in order to further help your folks make programs, we have 2 different programming languages today. First one is called SPS, Symbolic Programming System. It's basically an assembler kind of program, a one-for-one. Don't worry about that. We also have RPG, Report Program Generator. RPG is designed in such a way that it will appeal to the folks who have been doing this. It's laid out kind of like a control panel, and you fill in the blanks kind of like doing a control panel. In the future, we will have, I'm sure, autocoder, Cobalt, and Fortran. Now, one of the things that's really important today, we've been talking about the punch cards, and the equipment. You also have the rooms full of cards that represent the past for you. All your records are on punch cards, and they take a lot of space. We believe that in the future, you will want to begin to move to magnetic tape. Pat, can you run that tape program? We believe you're going to want to run to magnetic tape. We'll talk. And these are the magnetic tape drives. UNIVAC our friendly competitors at Remington Rand invented the idea or brought forward the idea of audio tape to the computer world, but having digital tape and having to start and stop this tape so quickly is a very different problem. And we've had to go a long way to solve those problems to make tape a really important medium, but today it is important. So now you see us reading and writing tape, and we'll let that run for a while as I continue to talk. The tape drives are running now. Imagine that instead of having to read cards. Capture that box of cards, if you would. This represents 2,000 IBM cards. And I could get probably about 100 boxes of tape on one 2,400-foot reel of tape. You want to talk a little bit more about tape?
Sure. This is magnetic tape. If you remember old reel-to-reel tapes from long ago, or even cassette tapes that you might have used in your car one time, it's the same stuff. It's mylar tape. The difference is those tapes were audio tapes, so they were analog, right? So what you would do would be to put the tapes in the tape machine, press start to play, and it would start playing your music. And it was analog, and it would just keep on reading and reading and reading continuously. So actually the drive mechanism was pretty simple. These tapes, as you can see, are much bigger. Also, because this is a digital computer, under program control, what it's going to do is read a record of tape, which might be only a small portion of the tape because it's pretty dense, but it wants to read a record or a block of tape, and then it's going to stop and process that, and then it's going to start again. So basically, this is starting and stopping. And the problem is, this is a lot of mechanical mass, right? So if you're starting and stopping it, you're going to stretch this mylar tape, and that won't work. So that's one of the reasons why the tape drives have these things that are called vacuum columns. If you look down here, you see these loops of tape, and they're kind of going up and down. Basically what they are is buffers. So what happens is, this is the supply reel, this is the take-up reel, and the tape read head is in here. So they kind of act as three separate things. What happens is, the supply reel goes into this tape vacuum column, and this loop, it starts spinning and creates a loop until it gets all the way to the bottom where there's a little hole. It breaks the vacuum, and that says, okay, now my buffer is full. Then when this read head wants to read some more tape, it takes the tape out of the other side, which shortens the loop. When the loop gets short enough to go to this top hole, it says, okay, you need to give me some more. So basically, this guy feeding the tape and this guy reading the tape are really separated, and this vacuum column makes that process be separate. You don't have to keep starting and stopping this thing nearly as much. And the same thing on the tape outside here. One other little interesting thing about this magnetic tape is this little ring on the back here. It's called a write protect ring. So if we were, for example, running a copy job, and say we have a master tape here with all your employee records or whatever, and we just want to make a copy of it, what we want to make sure is, hey, the operator mounted it wrong or whatever, you don't want to wipe out your good tape. So you take out this write protect ring, and it's actually a sensor in the machine. If it does not see that write protect ring, it will not write to it. So it's kind of a fail-safe mechanism just to make sure you don't do it again.
So the 729 tape drives that you see, there are different models, and they have 200, 556, that's what people used in the past, or 800 characters per inch. So 800 characters, 10 IBM cards per inch. That's where we get that kind of density that we're talking about. They are state-of-the-art. They are state-of-the-art in the fact that right after we write every record, we read it back to make sure that it is readable, and if we don't, there's error things to go through. And finally, I want to mention high-speed rewind. When you're doing a job, you're not done until you've taken those tapes all the way off. And so if I've written 2,400 feet, I don't want to take 10 minutes to have that rewind. So the tape drives have built in a high-speed rewind. And And what we'll do, we'll show you the high-speed rewind, pretend the job is over and show you the high-speed rewind. And what it will do is rewind at a very high speed until it gets close to the beginning. Then it will get into a low speed rewind so it doesn't fly off the end. So it actually unloads, lifts up the heads, and begins the high speed rewind. And you can see how fast that's going.
We'll actually do the whole tape in less than a minute.
And there goes the other one. We got just a tiny little bug. Actually, it should be rewinding both of them at high speed at the same time. And the number 1 drive is now in a low speed rewind. Number 2 is just now going into the low speed rewind. So the point is that these are built to get you through the operation quicker. So, point of all this is, ladies and gentlemen of the ABC Wholesale Company, if you order your 1401 today, we can begin programming and have you realize the benefit in just months. Well, let me, that was 1960, right? Let's come forward now. Let's be in 2014. Come forward a few years. Pardon me? And we'll cover the price. We will absolutely cover the price. In order to do that and some other comparisons, who has a smartphone? If you hold that up, I need 2 people to hold up your smartphone. And I need 2 people because here's one over here and here's one over here. Okay, I need 2 people because your smartphone's really a computer as of today, right? Definitely. And so 2 computers. This row represents 2 computers. You see me running on one of them, and that's a whole duplicate 1401 over there. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the restoration project later. But first a question. If you have something in your smartphone, you got some data in there, and you want to find it, see it, look at it, how do you do it? How do you tell this that you want to see the output? What does your output look like when you see it? Anybody?
Comes on the screen.
Comes on the screen. There's certainly nothing like a screen here. In the 1959, 58, 59 time frame when this was being done, screens just simply weren't available. Well, there were a few on the most high-level secret projects, but they really weren't in common use at all. All your output on the 1401 was on this printer right here. Okay, so how do you get data into your computer? And you what? Talk? You tap? Take those. Getting the data into the 1401 was 100% by cards. That is, you went over those. Went over those 1401. I'm sorry. Went over to those key punches. Key punched the data, brought it over to the system, and that's how you got data in. So let's see. That's in and out. Storage. I want to mention storage. We mentioned that box of cards that, well, I apologize. I don't know where that's going to be. We mentioned that box of cards is 2,000 cards. If you have a 16 gig storage on your current iPhone, that's about 8 million boxes of cards. 8 million. One other. If I had a desktop computer and a smartphone and I want to get data back and forth, how do you do it? I'm sorry.
A cable you plug into.
Cable you plug into it. That certainly is one way. You can also use Wi-Fi and sometimes Bluetooth. But here's the cable, right? Here's the USB cable. You know, I plug your device to your device and connect it. Well, here we use this kind of cable. So that's your USB device, circa 1960. And we'll connect a little bit more about that too. I want to mention, by the way, my name is Jim Strickland, and this is Pat Booter. I was with IBM in this time frame, very first useful work I ever did for IBM was programming a 1401.